Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Big Home Ed Conversations. My name is Kelly Rigg. I'm a home ed mum of two and a qualified mindset and ADHD coach. I am really passionate about supporting parents and neurodivergent families as they navigate children not okay at school, and ultimately then the transition from mainstream schooling into home education. I'm here together, as always, with my lovely co-host, Ashley Venerio. She's a fellow home ed mum of three and a former primary teacher. So we created the Big Home Ed Conversations podcast with what began as honest, heartfelt talks around the coffee table. And it's now grown into a space where hundreds of listeners now tune in for real, unfiltered conversations about alternative education mindset and sort of educational philosophies. We cut through the noise and focus on what really matters to home educating families. As you have probably heard, if you've been listening along this season, we have been sponsored for this sort of what's the word, term? I suppose it is just a season, isn't it? This group of episodes by Strew. So Strew is a home education logging app that was created by a home educating mum and her brother. They reached out to us to ask us to review the app honestly, to use it, enjoy it, and to tell you guys the features that are on there, and obviously invite you to go and give it a go yourself. So essentially, we know that lots is changing in the home ed world in terms of legalities. Hopefully the session with Jen has really helped you all to understand where that's at. But ultimately, we are looking here at the way this app might be helpful in the future. And one of the things that we were really reflecting on before we got on today was how difficult it can be to kind of consolidate the learning that we do actually do with our children, that so many of us follow quite an eclectic or project-based or unschooly kind of way of doing things. And we see our children learning and growing and developing ideas all the time. But it can sometimes be quite hard. Like if you were to ask me to sit down and write a report based on the past 3 months or 6 months of our learning, I probably would find that quite difficult to just pull from my brain all of the amazing stuff that I've seen them doing and learning about. I could do like the highlights for sure, but I would really struggle with that. And I think that can sometimes mean that when we're faced with a report to do for the local authority, that we will find ourselves feeling a little bit at a loss of what to say, like what examples to offer. And obviously you always follow great advice from like Heifer and Education Otherwise. They have great kind of templates and guidance and advice lines and stuff for you to speak to. But ultimately, something like this Strew app gives us the opportunity to keep that information handy. And I was having a look at the report functions this week just to kind of get my head around what they can do. And they're honestly really very helpful. Essentially, when you kind of go into the reports, you can either print or create a PDF of what your learning has been. And you can obviously change the date range, which child you want to do it for. You can filter it by the tags you've been using or the study bucket it comes under, like literacy, etc. And you can obviously then order it in whichever order you want it to do it in. But ultimately, what you can do is you can obviously create that for yourself, which allows you to then just scroll through it and remind yourself of the things they've been up to. Or you can obviously have it literally PDF available to include with a report if that's what you want to do. And obviously it helps to then break down the AI's assessment of what learning outcomes you got in that particular moment as well. So I just found that feature really helpful and something which I think is going to become more and more helpful when we kind of get down the line a little bit.
We're really loving the filter feature as well. I think for me, what I've been finding is that while I'm a heavy pen and paper planner, I can't filter my notebook. So it's requiring me to have to go through and actually like start another spreadsheet or piece of paper where I'm tracking if I wanted to see all the math we've done or all the science we've done. So I think for me, being able to tag things as I'm entering them. And also, sometimes I don't think about something being in a particular category initially, and it's me having to go, oh gosh, actually, yeah, this is also reading, or this is also another topic, science or geography. And so if I were just to look in my notebook, I would be like, oh, we did history. But in actuality, we also did a bit of science. We also did a bit of geography when we were doing that. And so being able to tag it that way in the app and then in the future be able to filter it just eases my workload.
Mm-hmm.
And makes it a lot easier to see what we've actually done versus flipping pages in a notebook. I mean, you can do that, but it's just about making our lives a little bit easier, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's so many different ways of keeping this information handy, and absolutely whatever system you like to use might be absolutely perfect for you. I'm not telling anybody they need to change it. But if you are finding that this is a problem for you, and it has been for me, and I have been working on trying to like create ways of doing this myself, that it is a relief to be able to just plug it all into one place and to have this lovely kind of record of what we've been up to. So hopefully, like some of the features we've been explaining to you the past few weeks are sort of helping you to understand more about what this app can do. But if you have any questions, do feel free to reach out to them or to us, and we're happy to answer anything you want to know about it. So,
Mhm.
getting on with this week's topic. So, we obviously have been away, we're doing our topic challenge still, and essentially been doing the town planning subject, town planning and street furniture. Now, this one I felt like I was cheating a little bit because I already had something that we'd been doing recently. So our local co-op that I run has literally been doing around about politics and town planning and like the concept of leadership in a country. So that's already kind of teed us in so nicely to this subject, which is really handy.
Nice.
So literally the week before, I had literally created a game where the kids could basically sit as a team. So they also had to sit there as like a council, and they had to run a town, and they could score points or lose points depending on decisions they made. And it's completely free form. So they were given scenarios. They had to discuss it, decide how they would solve it, what they would factor in. And then they would either like lose money points if it was expensive to put into place. They would gain environment if it cleaned up the environment. They would gain trust if it made people happy,
Oh,
etc., etc.
nice.
And they got to play kind of 3 or 4 rounds, but it definitely needed more. We ran out of time, but it was a really great game. They all really found very engaging, and they worked really well as a team. It was lovely hearing them listening to each other and respecting each other, and giving each other a chance to
Nice.
give their ideas. And then they had to
Mm.
elect a mayor, like who was going to be the one who called it in the end and decided what they actually did, which they did really respectfully, and then honored the person who, like, they weren't getting annoyed with the person who did then obviously have to say, look, I loved your idea, but I don't think that's the right one on this occasion. I think we'll do this one.
Uh-huh.
It was such a fantastic way of seeing that children really should be respected an awful lot more for their ideas and for their ability to understand this stuff, that actually they are incredibly intelligent and they see and observe an awful lot. And I think it really showed us that. It was really fun to do. But I think I
Mhm.
need to like properly polish off that game and sell it, because I think people would love it. It's a great kind of play around the table as a family kind of game, like an educational game. So I think I'll probably try and actually make it into a
Yeah, we'd
proper
love to
resource,
play
because
it.
it sounds
Have
like a
the
great one.
scenarios and yeah,
It's really good fun.
cute.
Um, but yeah, I think initially we found ourselves this week talking about it as a, like, what we kind of, well, the initial conversation, like we do in the car, like trapped audience and all that. Basically found myself talking to them about this idea of, let's just go back for a minute to when towns and groups of people like were just starting to settle down and start to think about some of the problems they might have started to face, and therefore why towns have evolved how they have. And obviously it immediately descended into poop, because everything always does.
As you
And I
do.
was like, well,
Yep.
where do you think they pooped? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm just like, so you've got a little hut and you're a little tribe of people all kind of gathering in one area. Where do you poo? And he's like, in the forest. I'm just like, yeah, but like, where in the forest? Just on the floor? Like, do you bury it? Do you make pits? Do you have a communal poo place that everyone goes to poo? Like, how do you think they'd have done it? And obviously, I don't even really know. We didn't actually end up looking up how they used to do it, but we just had some fun kind of imagining how these things would have started, and then obviously get back to like Tudor Britain, where they were just chucking it out the window into the streets, which is grim. Um, but it kind of really evolved the conversation, and they thought it was really hilarious to kind of think about kind of how, like, all the stuff that we have now that we kind of take for granted, like toilets and fridges and
Right.
all these different things, actually there would have had to be really creative solutions for these things that we could use, as a people, in our little towns or tribes. And ultimately, yeah, it was a really fun conversation that was just a load of kind of, I don't know, what's the word, conjecture. So
Mm.
just thinking about it, not actually necessarily researching it or finding the actual facts out, but just sharing ideas as to what they maybe would have done. And that was a really fun way to start it, I think.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, who doesn't love a conversation like that? I mean, that is the most interesting part when we go visit any castle or historical structure is like seeing how that would have been in like the royal wiper and like all of the stuff that was done for the kings and queens of the time. I mean, it's just so interesting. And like, yeah, that's going to definitely pique kids' interests. We didn't get quite that in the weeds, but I love that. We definitely took a more modern day approach, I guess,
Hmm.
in that I was just sort of like, again, in the car, of course, as we were driving, like, why do you think the stoplights are here? Why do you think they have a circle? And my kids are always on me to go faster, go faster. And like, they'll be like, oh, there's the light's green. Like, why aren't you moving? Oh, well, this person's turning. And then we ended up missing the light. And I was like, well, this is a place where probably they should have a green turn arrow because
Yeah.
otherwise you never go. And what do you think goes into that kind of decision making process? And who even decides? And I didn't know all the answers to that, especially being in a different country.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, at this point, let's see if we can find a podcast. And I'm telling you, the buck stops here because we found one. I think it's funkidslive.com. And it is all about town planning for kids. It's
Amazing.
like a series. But I was like, could this be any better?
Yeah.
And it is geared towards kids. There's kids on the podcast. It's super cute. And so we started listening to that. And then I was in the show notes because I wanted to recheck what I had heard. They mentioned that in the UK, they need to build 500,000 homes a year to keep up with
Wow.
the growth. Yeah, the growth in families. I was like, that is a huge number. Like, is that right? And right now in the UK, they're only building, or at the time of this podcast, they were only building half that. And so
Mm.
what does that mean? I always feel like they're building too much. So like I feel like my initial thought and reality were not in
Mm.
line because I'm always thinking like, oh, another cookie cutter community. Like, do we need that? Like, do we need another set of townhomes like squashed in and like taking the forest away and like all this? So, but maybe we do.
Mm.
And so I went to the show notes to double check that number. And I saw at the end that there was a website. I never thought to go to the website. So I did. And there are on this website, it is amazing. So you can actually cut out your own town and
Hmm.
then make your own town. So it's like interactive in that way. You can obviously listen to the podcast. You can download a comic book
Hmm.
it's all about Agent Plan. And that's like their superhero.
Hmm.
And Agent Plan helps to design and build all these new towns. There is an interview with a planner, like what it's like to be a town planner. And that's like not a cartoon, right? It's an actual person. It goes on and on. Why can't you build houses anywhere? Find out why your town was built. And these are all little videos that you can watch.
That's so
Flood
interesting.
plans. Like, yeah, it was amazing. How do planners decide where to build and like what happens if there's archaeological items underneath? Like, then what happens? How do we
Mm.
get transportation? How many forms of transportation are there? I mean, this just goes on and on. I was like, all right, this is great. We're just going to plow through
Yeah.
this. So
We're just going to enjoy
that
this website.
like, this is us.
What a
Check.
win.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it. It's super cute. And then obviously it's based here in the UK. So it is pretty relevant to anyone
Yeah.
living in this area, but also just in general, it's super informative. So yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
recommend that.
That sounds really fascinating. I'm definitely going to have to dive into that myself. I think my kids would
Yeah.
enjoy that a lot. We did find some good videos as well, actually. So obviously you tend to reach for podcasts. I tend to reach for YouTube. So
Yeah.
we're going to see this pattern emerging a lot. I clearly enjoy my visual things, but we found some fantastic videos, and we will link them all in the blog. Don't worry, we will get around to the blogs, I promise. But ultimately, there's a few that we found. One was kind of like what's underneath New York City, which was really
Cool.
cool. So it literally showed you like layer by layer, like what are all the things that are underneath. And there's a tunnel. I don't know if it's done now, but they've literally been building this tunnel, like a third water mains tunnel, for 50 years. And it's
Wow.
still ongoing, so that they can rest the first two tunnels that were built, the first two pipes. They can turn them off and actually go in and repair issues with them, but they
Right.
literally can't turn them off right now because they need this third one in place. And like what a like a constant rush of like, we need to get this tunnel done because like we are getting, and then
At
we're talking
some
like
point.
800 feet below New York. So the last thing you
Yeah.
obviously want is a burst pipe down there just gradually eroding like sediment
Yeah.
rock and all the rest of it that's underneath it. Like, holy moly. But it was so fascinating, and like all the stuff they found a ship in the mud like 600 feet below New York, a whole ship, that had obviously sunk at some point. And I'm just like, I don't even get it. Like,
Oh,
Like, how
yeah.
is it underneath the modern city? That's crazy. Um, but we found it really fascinating, and that led us to another one that was all about like these sort of like mass heating kind of plants that literally heat water and send it out to people's homes. So it's very different to how we have it in the UK, where everyone has their own
Mm.
boiler, and it kind of talked to you all about how they heat the water and how they reuse heat from things like data centers. Obviously, we're worried about the heat that is being given off by kind of like big computing centers like AI centers and stuff like that. But there are countries that are currently kind of using that heat and
Mm.
reusing that energy to heat the water to send it back out into the world, like the heat from the subway stations underground and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's ever so clever. So we learned all about that. But the one we found the most amazing was like a 3D graphic of London evolving. And it was simply
Ooh.
like, it just looked like a person wandering around London as it was literally founded all the way through to modern day. And it just like, you just see all the types of buildings shifting and changing, and massive walls being built and massive walls being knocked down, and like
Mm.
buildings being created, and like even like modern places that you'd walk around the streets of today, like what they looked like um a few hundred years ago. And my son was like, oh, it looks like it does today, when it was about kind of like 1800s or so. And I was like, yeah, do you know, it doesn't look like it's changed a heck of a lot since then. Obviously, you've got lots of like modern buildings that have come in
Right.
around it. But yeah, a lot of those buildings that are built then are still there. And he made some fantastic observations and found it really interesting as we were watching it, which is just really great. So I love that one a lot. But I think those kind of videos helped us to get like a feel for just the scale of invention and the planning that goes into physically like building these things. And they're talking about in New York that all these pipes with all the different like water and gas and electricity and all the things, there's no map. There is no map of them. There are things buried underground that
Interesting.
literally people have no idea where they are. And so when they're obviously like doing works and stuff, they'll accidentally hit a water main and it will flood the area, and it will cause a whole like something like £300 million worth of repairs need doing every year because of accidental pipes being hit.
Mm.
But they basically
Lovely.
decided in the end not to make a map because they didn't want people to basically use it for not very nice things.
Sure. That's fair.
And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, but wouldn't it be helpful to maybe make that map and just
Surely.
keep it secure? Like, I feel like there's, it would be helpful to know where they all are, surely. But then we had a great conversation about why there's no map. Like, what has happened? Like, how long has it taken for New York to be built? Like, how old
Mhm.
is that city? Like, how many layers of inventions have happened just since it was founded? Like, telephones and
Yeah.
electricity and all of it has all been founded since that has been created. So of course they've had to like patch these things in,
Yeah.
and it makes a
Absolutely.
mess. It's like, but
Yeah.
it's just fascinating. And anyway, it did lead to some really interesting chats.
Yeah.
And yeah, quite passive learning in that sense, just like sitting and watching something and just chatting about it. But actually, there was definitely a lot of engagement coming from this subject, a lot of curiosity.
Yeah. It sounds a lot like that London video you mentioned is something that I think we might look at because this Friday we're going into London.
Hmm.
And one of the things on my list was that we've walked around our town, but we were going to walk around, like, obviously, we don't live in London. So it's a
Hmm.
very different experience and very different planning. So that was going to kind of be like a contrast for us to look at, like compare and contrast the differences. But I think maybe it'd be valuable to watch that before we go
Mm.
to give some perspective. We similarly, when we were studying the Titanic, we found a YouTube video that literally goes through layer by layer of the Titanic and
Mm.
how it was designed and why things were done the way they were. And it was lengthy. It was about, I
Mm.
think, 25 minutes.
Mm.
But I was like, no, guys, we are going to watch this because it is so fascinating. And they were genuinely like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And like, why did they have so many of these? And it's like, oh, well, because back then the passengers were very separated. And so you needed like 5 different decks for each class of passenger.
Mm.
And it was just really interesting. And it seems like anytime we watch kind of these like dissections of things, you naturally spring, like you noticed,
Mm.
conversations, like it just naturally comes up with some questions and you kind of go down a path. So I think it would
Yeah.
just be fun to do that. Yeah,
It
those are
does
good
sound really
ones.
good. And those sort of 3D models as well, like that sort of a video. They
Yeah.
had it for like Paris and LA and like loads of other
Yeah.
cities as well. So like you probably find your main city in it. There's so many really cool ones. So it's
Oh,
well worth
neat.
looking into that. But yeah, so then I mean we had another little side thing, obviously, with the local elections coming up this week. Obviously, I know people are listening to this a couple of weeks down the line, so they have already happened by the time you've listened to this. So don't get it in your head. Yeah, so 7th of May with the local elections, we had our local, wants to be MP, a guy called John, knock on the front door. And, both the kids were obviously around and came over, and we started having a bit of a chat with him, and he was telling me about what kind of some of the local issues that the current party have been kind of managing, or as he would state, mismanaging, as they do.
Sure.
And he really won over the kids, and they're like, "Are we going to vote for him, Mummy?" And I'm just like, "No." They're like, "Why not? He seems really nice." And it turned into, again, another fantastic conversation, but truly intrinsically motivated by the kids. They were so interested to ask him questions. He was so receptive to answering them, that he was obviously talking about a local kind of housing estate that was meant to have taken a year, and it's been sat nearly finished for 3 years, as they do.
Lovely.
And it needs sorting out. It's obviously hemorrhaging money and everything. But ultimately, it was just a really great opportunity to talk about, obviously, who it is who actually does do our town planning, who does the leadership here, like who's making the decisions, who's influencing the decisions that are made, who decides what values our local area holds, and how we obviously move forward. So obviously, depending on the party that gets in, they will have a different set of values and will fight for those values to be upheld in their area, but that obviously they are still top down, have to follow some of the values that will come from the overarching government of the country. Obviously, if you can get enough seats in Parliament
Mhm.
that are from a different group of people, then hopefully you will start to influence the conversations that are being had in government. And so I was saying about how obviously up until very recently, voting Green wouldn't really have gotten you very far, because ultimately not very many people were voting for them, and so they weren't getting the seats. But actually they're predicted to get a few seats in London this year, which is just unheard of.
Mm.
So it's quite fascinating actually when they were doing the predictions the other day that actually it's really well split. So I was showing him that and showing that obviously up until very recently it would have been very much Labour and Conservative dominating, but actually now you're getting some of these other parties taking some of those seats. They lose a significant percentage if that happens. And so
Mhm.
actually, if more people wanted to vote for like Green or Lib Dem or whatever, and try and get some different opinions in the room, reasonably, that could be actually the case now. You might actually get that seat secured. And he was really confused as to why more people aren't voting Green and why some people are kind of voting Reform or they're voting for Labour and all these different things. And he was asking loads of great questions about the different parties and their values and what they stand for and what kind of things that they push to have change. And that led to an even better conversation as why children aren't allowed to vote. And he goes,
Mhm.
why am I not allowed to have my say? Because even if only counted for like suggested vote, like the half vote, so like a just to get my opinion, like why can't we at least have some
Mhm.
like sway or some kind of influence on this? Like there should be like a children's deciding vote or something, like the local kids all get to vote, and that adds an extra nod in the direction of a particular party, because kids care an awful lot about the environment and social welfare and taking care of people, like food banks and taking care of each other. Like that's all stuff that they tend to hold quite dearly, animals and like the environment. And I think that they probably would be voting for some pretty damn good parties, actually. But it's interesting. I think it's really interesting how engaged he became with it. He is getting older, and it does keep these things remind me sometimes of how much older he's getting, with how much more engaged he gets with these sorts of conversations. Something that I really wouldn't have imagined that he would have wanted to give even a second's thought to a year or two ago. That he's actually really
Yeah.
fascinated by it all now, and saw the value in. I mean, I always make sure I vote, but I said to him, like, I think it's very important because we have to have our say. Like, we have to try and influence things as much as we can. And it's a very small influence, frankly, but it gives us a chance. And then he was talking to his dad about it, and I won't get him into too much trouble, but he was like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't even know who I'm going to vote for this time. Like, it's all a load of rubbish." And they're like, no, it's not, Daddy. And then they were like really convincing him that it was very important that he goes and votes. And if he doesn't care who he votes for, then he needs to vote for the same as Mummy because she does care about it. And she's doing her work about it. And he was like, okay. Like, what have you guys been doing today? Like, this is so big. Hounded about who I'm going to
What
vote
were you
for. And
learning?
yeah. And I was like, God, I was so proud of them. Look at them go. Little activists now. But yeah, I think it definitely opened us up to like the politics side of it conversation anyway,
Mm,
that is another big part of it. And that, yeah, it is quite difficult to influence what happens. It is. But
yeah.
we are allowed to have our say and to try and influence it, even if it's only a tiny influence.
We've always said if you don't vote, you can't complain.
No.
So if you're not happy with the current government, but you
Mm-hmm.
didn't vote, then I don't want to hear it
No.
because that's the thing. And I mean, it's when you look at the statistics, and I know this is like for the states, but like if all young people voted, like those able to over 18 in the states, if they all did, they could there's so many of them that they could
Yeah.
really sway the vote, the outcome, but
Yeah.
they don't. And the same with women. If all women voted, we could have a very strong presence.
Yeah. I think
Um,
this does make you think, though,
so
is the reason why so many young people don't vote or aren't
mm,
aware or don't
mm,
see the importance of it. And I wonder if that is by design, again, to some
I'm
degree,
sure.
um,
Yeah.
because obviously if you've grown up in a country that hasn't necessarily, I mean, I know that obviously in the US it is quite political. People do talk about it. Families do tend to have quite staunch beliefs and stuff. But if young people aren't voting, it makes you wonder, like, obviously how much education they're getting around this in schools, and like being encouraged to challenge the government is not necessarily something that's likely to be put on the curriculum, is it? But
Yeah.
if you think about
How
it that
dare
way,
you vote someone out of office 101?
exactly. So it does make you wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember seeing much political education at school, um, but I do wonder how much there actually is these days. It's a curious
Yeah.
question, I think.
Probably gets more into it at, like, the university level, I would imagine, and
Hmm.
then only if you choose to pursue that kind of a path. So, yeah, it definitely is something that I wanna continue to I mean, I know we've kind of gotten off of town planning, well, though it obviously intersects, but and more into, government and leadership and voting. But it definitely does make sense that this is something we continue to come around to because understanding the history of it and how we got here and then what we want to see out of our future, it'll just really underline the importance of voting and of I can personally tend to cast news watching aside because it can be overwhelming
Hmm.
and sometimes it's just about protecting myself in that moment. But I can once I come out of that and get back into it, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes, no, there is so much, and I do wanna make sure we're doing this, and, like, we should be doing these things," and it it does kind of rally you and make you feel a part of your town and community and the country that you live in, and it gives you that sense of belonging that all humans really strive for, so I think there is definitely value in continuing to have this as a conversation for us.
Yeah, in a big
Mhm.
way. And I think it helps them to actually remember that they are a part of a community.
Yeah.
They are a part of a people. And um, this conversation does come up in all kinds of different ways. Even just talk about legends of dragons that we were talking about this morning briefly. Even that comes up as like some of the legends are based in different invasions that might have happened, and sort of
Yeah.
certain people having certain beliefs about themselves, etc. And ultimately, those values we hold as a community are really, really important. And being a part of our local community and actually caring about, I don't know, the welfare, the food banks, the schools, the hospitals, the funding that it's getting, the state of the roads, the state of the infrastructure, issues that might be happening. I mean, a few years ago,
Mhm.
down here where we are, there was some flooding that infiltrated the mains water, and shut down water for the area for several days. And these are all things that are important to be pushing local
Mhm.
businesses, actually like the water companies and stuff, to be doing something about and putting better protection in place and all that stuff. And obviously even that was just fascinating, seeing how automatic that was, that as soon as there was even the slightest bit of infiltration into the water, it shut it down, it detected it and stopped it, which is really fascinating. But all of the relief effort that had to go in afterwards, like this is all stuff which needs to be planned and thought about, like sort of risk management and sort of disaster. Is it disaster? crisis management, that kind of thing.
That's
So
really, yeah. Yeah.
like actually understanding what you're going to do. So if the town floods, how do we help people? Where are resources coming from? Like they have to have
Uh-huh.
plans in place for all these things. And obviously my kids are quite macabre. They quite enjoy stuff like that. My son was watching something about meteors the other day and like what would happen if different sized meteors hit the earth. And I went, are we enjoying this or are we a bit worried that we're going to start like not
Having
sleeping?
nightmares.
So I feel like I want to make sure before we carry on watching this that we're enjoying ourselves. He goes, oh yeah, it's really fascinating. And by the end of it, he was just like sat there like shell shocked, being like, oh. I
You
was
need
like,
to invest in more
oh,
satellites.
yeah. This does make me laugh, but they do love stuff like that. They like the kind of all
Yeah.
the slightly grim bits of the mythology stories and stuff every so I'm quite lucky in that way. They don't get too phased by this stuff, but there is definitely some interesting stuff around that we could do as well, the kind of town planning thing. Because actually just to think about like what would we do if this happened? Like
Yeah.
how would it affect our town? Like let's look at our town and see what would happen if that happened. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Well, you can see some flood planning on that website that I mentioned from the
Hmm.
podcast. So go look at that. And
Yeah.
then kind of you can use that as a starting off point.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, we did go to see how like water is filtered and how it arrives in our
Mm.
houses.
Yes, that
And
was
I thought
amazing.
that was really, really cool. And they had a lot of like hands-on activities, like see if you can supply energy to the water to all of the houses on the block, and like how would you do the piping and
Yeah.
um,
That was
how
great. That
much
was a free
water.
day out as
Yeah,
well. That was down at a Kent
yeah,
water plant. So if you're looking for a day out like that,
yeah.
that was fantastic. They yeah, it's completely free. You can go and see the reservoir, go underneath the
So
reservoir,
cool.
like all the
Yeah.
machines and behind the scenes. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was really, really amazing. And just things I did not know about how they filter our drinking water. So absolutely worth it. But that's like a community planning aspect, right? Like
Yeah.
how many water plants do we need? If we're building all of this new housing, how are we supplying it with water
Yeah.
and things that it needs? So I thought yeah, definitely was kind of played right in. So we talked about that again and just like, remember when we did this and we pulled up the pictures and
Mm.
that was really cool. And
Yeah.
then we did our local park, our local playground is having new structures put in,
Nice.
and it's been taking forever. But I pulled up our annual town meeting notes from last year
Hmm.
to see, to show them like how it was approved
Hmm.
and what that looked like, and then now we can like go see that it's being done, albeit quite slowly. So they just had our annual meeting. If not, I might have tried to like take them to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have been allowed in. I'm not sure how strict that is, but since it just happened, we have got a
You
year
imagine the constant
to
interruptions, the hands up
reconsider.
every 20 seconds. Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, can you tell me about this? Can you tell
About
me about
this?
that? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, we go to that park.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that sounds great. 5 more swings. Like, but yeah, so I do think there's a shortage of swings. I don't know why people don't understand that they need a lot more than they like 2 is never enough. Like
No.
do you have children?
Literally every
Um,
playground I've ever been to, I've found myself saying, do they actually get parents to come in and like
right?
review these plans? Or do they just like, do parentless people create these things? Like, I don't know who does this. Like, some of the
Don't
stuff they make is
know.
treacherous as well. I'm just like, who thought about this?
Yeah,
There's one I went to that they put a sand pit right in the middle of it, like a tarmac covered playground. And the sand obviously just got everywhere. And obviously,
everywhere.
whereas like no one's clearly sweeping it back in every night. And so as they were running across this playground, especially if it's slightly wet as well, oh my goodness,
Right.
like they just fell over like every 20 seconds. I'm just like, yeah, nope, this is terrifying. Get out. We're not using this playground. This is got to go. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some of these things are super important. I think these are great real life examples for them actually,
Yeah.
to experience
Mhm.
something, go like, is this planned well? Like,
Yeah.
would we have done this
No, it is
differently?
not. Yeah, and that I think the playgrounds, I just you see the memes, right? They're hilarious, but they're so true. Like
Hmm.
yeah, let's have this slide. It'll end 5 feet off the ground. Are we going to put another piece there? Nope, we like it like that. I mean, there are some that are just horrible,
There's no one
and
that
ours.
security guy going down a slide once. I feel like I can remember like
My
a really
gosh,
funny one that when he was like going bang, 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 bang,
he's like,
bang, gets like
yeah,
spat
he's
out
like, oh
onto the
yeah,
floor and he's like, ouch. Just like, are we signing this one off? Are we happy with this one?
this one slide that like my daughter did, that said like there was signage to keep your arms and legs in, and you couldn't do it without pants. and like long sleeves. And I was like,
She
this
means
is like out of,
trousers for the English amongst us.
oh, yeah, sorry.
Definitely don't go down slides
Trousers.
without your pants.
Trousers is not a word I would ever use. It's up there with like slacks. Put your slacks on.
Yeah.
Like, no. But yeah, so I was like, okay, well, you are wearing long pants, but you're not wearing long sleeves. Like, just keep your arms in. Girl got like rug
Yeah.
burn on her elbows.
Yeah.
I was like, what's this? Is just at a park and there's like warnings. Like, kids don't read
Yes.
this stuff.
No.
So yeah,
But like me using
our
a toilet somewhere the other day, went in, locked the door, sat down the toilet, looked at the door. And you know how you have like signs on the door? It says, please do not lock this door because it keeps getting stuck. And I'm just like,
you're like,
that should
that
have been
should
on
be
the
on the
outside.
outside. Or like
Because it's too
right
late now.
next to the handle.
It's like, oh,
Well, I live
it was
here now.
fine. Don't worry, I got out. But
Oh my
but no,
gosh,
you're totally
yeah.
right that these things need serious, like, they need people to actually know this stuff and think about it and like
Yeah.
be able to just say, no, this will not work. Um,
Well, I'm curious how ours is going to turn out because we had a pretty treacherous slide anyway, and they took it down, and I was like, oh my gosh, great, they're replacing it, perfect. Or even they're just getting rid of it and building something else somewhere else. Nope, they have a new one in there, and it doesn't look better. So
no.
I'm waiting to see how it finishes because right now it is like the 5-foot drop, like they've not put the
Yeah.
bottom section on. Fingers crossed that it's an improvement and not just another ridiculous accident waiting to happen.
Oh dear, oh dear. But yes. So the only other thing we did this week really that I can remember at the moment in time was I basically set the kids you can't have screens until you've done something challenge. So I had to go and do some work.
That?
And I love doing these because it's obviously gets them super motivated. But once they started, they ended up playing with it for hours. Basically, I said to them they had to use all the toys we had downstairs. They could use whatever they wanted. They could get them all out if they wanted to. Duplo, Marble Run, trains, whatever they wanted. But they had to make a town. And oh my goodness, it was so cute. Like it's
Aw.
just fantastic. They got our we have like a road rug out from when they were little. They put that on the floor. They used the Duplo to make a fire station, a police station. They found some little police cars and fire trucks in all of like the Duplo and everything, all their cars that they've got. They made a zoo with a train with all the zoo animals being brought in from from
Cute.
somewhere else. Oh, it was just fantastic. There's so many bits that they'd thought of. They had like this train system running around it. Like it was just fantastic. And they'd thought about it so much and added so many lovely little touches and details. I was like, oh, I don't know, those dinosaurs were infiltrating the farm and was eating a sheep. Like it was just really, really funny. And it was obviously just really fun, like actual proper honest play. Like they're both
Right.
getting older now. And we're literally at the point of being like, should we just get rid of all this stuff? Because it literally never comes out. Like you're never putting it out
It's
anymore. Like they
hard,
play with Lego and
yeah.
they'll play with like my youngest still plays with her dolls and things, but like all the sort of Duplo and stuff just doesn't really ever come out. And it was such a lovely opportunity to see it all out and being loved again and for them to be being so creative with it as well. So that was really fun and just obviously just a really simple kind of think about what a town would have in it and
So
build some of the
creative.
buildings and make some of the things and just the role playing and that was super cute. So that was well worth it.
Our town would probably have like 5 stables.
Just a full on horse town.
Yeah.
Bless him.
This is our transportation going forward.
Yeah. I've realised as well here that we haven't necessarily touched massively on the concept of street furniture. You did a bit to be fair, talk about like things like the traffic lights and the
Mhm.
junctions and stuff like that. We did talk about it very briefly. Like we noticed things like the lampposts and the benches and why do you think they might have put a bench there? And it's like, oh, well, the view's really nice. And I said, it's possibly also a point that like as people are walking, that's probably just like a reasonable amount of distance from the last bench. So maybe people who have
Yeah.
got some mobility issues, it just helps them to have a little rest and to carry on. So there was a little conversation around that, but we didn't really do anything about that. So that's maybe something to carry on and think about a little bit more when we're driving around. Because
Yeah.
we haven't done a lot of driving around together this week. So that might be why that's been a bit more of a struggle to kind of cover because we haven't necessarily been spotting things.
Mm.
But yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that's all we've managed to do. I mean, that's a lot for 1 week, to be perfectly frank. I'm quite happy
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
But obviously, as usual, if you guys have got anything that you found, please do come and share it with us, because I think, like you were saying earlier, there's a lot here that does feel like it's something to keep bringing up, because like
Yeah.
we've got kids who are very curious, very capable. They could be inventing the next big thing one day. And also, when you think about the jobs that are available in this world, like often a kid will say, "Oh, I want to be a vet," or "I want to be like whatever." They don't necessarily always realize that there's so many really interesting jobs. And I
Oh,
know that,
yeah.
for example, like town planning, I went to the local, I think it was Rushmore Borough Council, for a meeting about something else recently, and they were talking about the types of jobs that are really difficult to fill. And town planning jobs are really difficult to fill because nobody ever
Mhm.
thinks to go and qualify as a town planner. But
Right.
they offer like courses and can literally onboard people from scratch, to get you into that career, and it's incredibly well paid because it's such an individual skill. Like it's very, very important to do it well. And so these are jobs which we maybe wouldn't even know exist, but actually are
Right,
really
exactly.
interesting and would be full of interesting challenges. Every day would be a new challenge, right? Something new to figure
Yeah.
out and to factor in. And yeah, I think it could be a really interesting career, something that I probably would find quite fun, to be honest.
I know, me too. Love that.
But was there anything else that you came across, Ashley, or do you think that was probably is that
That's everything
you
I
tapped out
had.
to?
Yeah, let's pick the next one.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Brilliant. Well, I hope that was interesting, guys. I feel like we've had fun with this one. Right, this one needs to be good because I'm going on holiday next week and it needs to be something that I can do whilst lounging in
Consistent.
a pool. I'm not really doing anything else. Oh, God help me. It's going to be awful, isn't it? Right, let's find out. Oh, no, it's a great one. Okay, so journaling, processing thoughts and feelings.
I love that.
Oh, that's a great one for a holiday. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. That's nice and calm and easeful, hopefully. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I like this one. I never really gotten into journaling. I find it quite difficult to make myself sit and write things, but I do like to take time to reflect and to be quiet and on my own to think things through.
Hmm.
But I do an awful lot of work with people around this. Obviously, being a coach, that is pretty much
Yeah.
like what you do. Um, and I think it's so valuable. It's such an important part of growing up, is learning how to understand what you're feeling and to know what our body's saying, and not just feelings in the sense of happy, sad, etc., but also like, what is our body
Yeah.
saying? Like, it's not all about our brain. We get told that education is very much about our brain. And actually, most of us who are home educating, I think, are way more aware that actually our bodies have a massive thing to say in this fact that they don't want to just be ignored. Um,
Yeah.
they would actually quite like us to do something about the need to move or to eat or to drink or to some rest. Or when we're ill, to actually get ourselves better instead of just ignoring it
Rest,
and
exactly.
carrying
Yeah.
on. So yeah, so I'm quite passionate about this anyway. But I've already got some ideas of things I could do with them for sure. But I think I'll try and challenge myself to go outside my comfort zone with this one a little bit and find some new stuff to do. And yeah, I'm quite
Yeah.
excited about that one.
Yeah.
It's quite a good one.
Yeah. I've been looking for a way to bring like gratitude into our daily routine as well. And I
Mm,
feel like that kind of always goes along with journaling and that self-reflection and just mental awareness and health. So yeah, I think this could be a good opportunity to do that. In fact, I'm staring at a book that I got called Mind Fuel for Young Explorers. And my
nice.
thought was that we would kind of start to bring that into. So maybe we can read something and then journal about it or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have
Get
to
them
play
to
with
like
it.
make
But
their own little
yeah,
diary or something. I think they quite like that maybe.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, kids always love that, don't they? My kids write such funny things and they all have little diaries upstairs with like the little lock on it, you know.
Yeah.
That's like universal, so it opens literally every journal ever created, which is great. Thank goodness whoever developed that. I'm appreciative because we lose those things
Yeah.
left and
I was
right.
gonna say.
So it's so good. But yeah, and they use it usually to write like funny stories and
Hmm.
like or talk about how they hate their sister in that particular moment. So
Bless them.
yeah, I think we'll try to channel to some more productive thought processing, but hopefully. Yeah.
Brings you back to the moment talking to the MP to be outside, where my kids were basically listening to him and talking to him to start off with, and they started poking each other with sticks,
Yeah.
and then like squabbling under my feet. I'm just like, mate, I'm trying to talk to him about his opinions on home education right now, and making sure that if he does get
Muddying
in,
the
that
waters.
he's going to support us and continue to support us because our current MP has been. So it's like I needed to
Yeah.
make sure that he was on board, and there's you squabbling and poking each other with sticks. Really? Can we like put on our most educated Look, for a moment, please.
Please. No
So,
feral children in the moment.
slightly more dignified. At
This
least they
is
were
like when I
dressed.
was, yeah, every time. This is like when we had the conversation where someone said something, and I said this before on the podcast, and my kid was like, "What's Nebraska? What's a
Yeah,
Nebraska?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you know, like a state. What's a state?" Guys, seriously, this isn't even funny. Like,
it is.
you are
It's very funny.
losing all credibility. I look like an idiot, and you do know these things. But it's funny because if a kid that attends traditional school says something like that, people are like, oh, yeah, you know, whatever. But the second a
Yeah.
homeschool kid does it, it's like, what are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah, I know,
what
right?
are you even doing? I'm like,
The
she can tell you
standards are so
every
much
breed
higher.
of horse ever.
I
How
know,
about that? Let's
yeah.
talk about
And
that.
probably where they come from. Like, do you
And
know
what
any
state they
horses that
come
come from
from.
Nebraska?
Yeah. Well, let's try to reroute this into something your brain recognizes. Yeah, no, it's
That
always
did
the way.
tickle me quite a
Always the
lot, to be
way.
fair. I feel for you. But they have got so many
Yeah,
countries to learn. I mean, if I'm going to
that's
give any kids
true.
credit on keeping track of the different countries
That's
and different
true.
parts of the countries, I mean, literally, they've lived in 3 different ones, so they've had an awful
Yeah.
lot of confusion there. So it's fine.
Yeah,
I think
fair.
it was my son ranting about our Prime Minister Donald Trump the other day that I had to have a bit of a conversation about. No, he is the president of the United States. And he's like, "Are we not part of the United States?" I'm like, "No, we are part of Britain, the United Kingdom. We're quite far apart, actually. Different parts of the
They
world."
both have united
Yeah,
in the title, so I get the confusion.
yeah. As I say, I think these things are so normal. Like, these are what actually make you realize that these conversations need to be had
Yeah.
because it's like, no, we have a prime minister and he's this and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, okay, I've never heard of him before. I'm like, no, I know, yeah, we don't. We don't really watch the news, as you say. It's like doomsday over there. Like, I tend to just live in my nice little bubble,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is important. I think these conversations are so great because it is definitely making me want to cover things with the kids that much more and to kind of really get into it and realizing that they're old enough to do so now. So these are great little challenges. They're fun and they are kind of, the kids are really engaging with them actually. But I think this is why it's so important to be covering this stuff with our kids. It's fascinating. They're really engaging with it. It's definitely giving me a chance to mix things up as well. So I think this has been really fun. And I hope that you guys are joining in a little bit. I know some of you are. Some of you have been reaching out and letting us know some of the stuff that you've been up to. But do keep that coming. We want to know what you're doing. Send us a message on Instagram or TikTok or send us an email. But next week, we'll obviously be doing journaling and processing thoughts and feelings. So you can hear from us about that. But we'll see you again soon.
You've been listening to the Big Home Ed Conversations podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Big Home Ed Podcast for updates. Also, check out our new website at bighomedpodcast.com. We'll be back next week to talk about our experiences bringing the topic of journaling, processing thoughts and feelings to our children. We hope to hear your experiences as well, so come talk to us about it on social media. Thanks for listening.